This game is called Fill the Bucket. The entire class will be in one giant line. Our class of 3 today are going to demonstrate. The very first player in line is going to have a sponge, and they are going to dip the sponge into the bucket of water that's in front of them. And if you are working with kindergarten through 2nd grade, they are just going to pass the sponge over their heads to the player behind them. And then when the last player receives the sponge, they turn around and they squeeze as much water out of the sponge as they can into the bucket and run the sponge back to the first player. And then they run back to the back of the line. And the first player will again dip the sponge in the water, and they will continue repeating this game until the bucket is filled to the line. If you are working with 3rd through 5th grade, the first player will dip the sponge in the bucket, and she will either pass the sponge over her head or through her legs. And then the next player has to go over her head, and then the following player would go between her legs. But if you're the last player, you will just squeeze the sponge into the water into the bucket and return it to the first player. And this continues until the water is filled to the line in the last bucket.